let's chat about the dreaded butt wink that happens in squats. If you're new to exercise or lifting or just have never heard of this, then I'm going to talk about what it is and whether or not it's something we need to address and when it might need to be addressed. So if you don't know what a butt wink is, it is essentially the shifting of a pelvis into a posterior pelvic tilt quickly and then anterior pelvic tilt at the bottom of a squat. So what that typically will look like is coming down into your squat, your pelvis tucking under, and then coming back up as you come into the concentric phase or the returning to stand phase. Again, that looks like this in a different angle, coming down, tucking under, coming up. Some people's will be more pronounced than others, but that is typically what happens once we kind of reach the bottom of a squat. Most of the time, this is a combination of things happening, and just looking at somebody's squat is not enough information to let us know why it's happening. We have no idea. There can be a handful of different reasons, and it's not inherently problematic in and of itself. My personal professional opinion on this is if I have a client who has a really big butt wink, we are probably not going to load it because I'm going to work on some of the things that I'll share with you in this video. First and foremost, just to see if they need to learn how to control and move their bodies a little bit, because most people just don't have a great connection to their bodies. If a few tweaks don't change them, then I'm probably going to choose a different exercise while we work on their mobility restrictions and limitations that are contributing to it. Again, a squat is a multi-joint movement. It is a lot of things involved, such as 2 ankles, 2 knees, and 2 hips, bare minimum at least with a regular squat. So we need to address and assess all of those to see what's happening. That butt wink and that movement is a combination of the brain doing the best it can with what it has available and what it has access to at those joints. And a lot of different things can contribute to them, and I'm not going to go through them all in this post or this video, but you can go and get assessed with somebody who can help you figure that out. For now, we're going to go through coaching and how to address it. But again, this isn't necessarily something that is going to cause injuries or is super problematic. But I don't prefer to have clients who don't have control of their pelvis when we are moving weight. I don't like to see a lot of uncontrolled movements under load. It's not necessarily guaranteed anything, but if I can load them with a different exercise that provides the same stimulus, I'm gonna prefer to do that while we work on the limitations on the side. And that is how I typically like to run my practice. So the things that I typically would go through with people who want to work on this and who are interested in it are going to start with their position when they squat. Women specifically, but men as well, but since I typically work with women, this is something I'm going to focus on. A lot of women tend to stand in this anterior pelvic tilt position. What that is if you think about your pelvis as a bowl, if we think about dumping water out the front of that bowl and tilting our tail towards the ceiling, you will see this position. When we start in this position or initiate a squat, with this movement, we are kind of bringing our pelvis forward, and as we go into more hip flexion, which is this movement here, we run out of room at our hips. So eventually our body's like, I can't go anywhere unless I do something, and the thing that ends up giving is our pelvis. So sometimes learning how to zip it up, unlock the knees, let your rib cage and pelvis meet a little bit more, and maintaining that position is really what we have to work on. So this is unloaded, learning body weight movement, just unlocking the knees and bringing these together, remember? So again, we're kind of tilting our pelvis, our belt buckle towards our nose and rib cage down. From here, we're going to think about actively pulling ourselves down. Like if somebody were under my armpits, pulling me up, I am actually resisting them, trying to pull myself down, and I'm going to initiate the squat with my knees. I know a lot of people have been taught by fitness people, by power lifters, to sit that butt back into the table, but a lot of people that just ends up initiating this anterior pelvic tilt. If we are doing a bodyweight squat, which is what we're doing right now, that is not what you need to do. Most people don't need to do that, and it actually can kind of contribute to some of this. So we're going to work on bodyweight squats and owning your bottom of your squat position with your pelvis. So again, we are pulling ourselves down, initiating with our knees, coming as low as we can, actively controlling this and pushing back up on the up position. Practicing these with body weight is really important because the second we start to load it is the second we start to have our bodies take the path of least resistance, which will be what we already do anyways in the gym. So retraining it looks a lot like that. Now for some people, that's not enough and we need to do a couple other things to make sure they have more room at the bottom of their squat position, at the bottom of their squat. That sometimes looks like changing their stance. For some people, based on their anatomy, they need to have their legs a little bit wider, their toes facing out. If you are this person, what this will look like is as you go into hip flexion, so we are assessing hip flexion, standing, this will be all you can do, and the rest will look like this. For some people, that's just a mobility, lack of control, or a lack of joint space. For other people, it is literally the way that their bony anatomy is, and you're not changing that. For the latter, you will notice, to know if they are the latter, as you bring their leg out, they may get higher before they tuck under. If that is you or your client, you will just need to have them squat wider and toes out. If you bring their knee out wider and don't find a pocket where their knee can come higher, then most likely they just don't have control of hip flexion. This is hip flexion. We need to work on that. And in the meantime, we're only gonna have them either squat in the range of motion they have control of, which would be 90 degrees if it's here, or we're gonna work on a different movement while we work on reprogramming the global movement pattern of a squat. So again, butt winks are not inherently bad, but they do typically mean we don't have a lot of control. And I like to progress strength with body control or max body control because I work with people who really want to just have the ability to be functional and lift and active for the rest of their life. So if that's your goal, then it might be something you want to look into. It might be something you just want to work on because it's something you're not good at. And that's always something that we are looking for in fitness. So if this was helpful, comment below, let me know, share it with a friend, and I will see you in our next video.